In this video, I'm going to show a recording of a live trade in Nasdaq futures that resulted in a 65 tick winner. After that, we're going to go through a detailed breakdown of the logic and reasoning behind the trade. So stay tuned. All right, let's see what happens here. See volume coming in. There we go. Not seeing the buyers getting aggressive at all. Here we go. Pumping a little. So I'm considering the buy, considering the buy. Let's take it. So I want to see if they continue to hold this area or if they just reject down low and I take another L on the day. Can they hold it? Can they hold it? Nope. And I'm out. Well, again, it was a good idea. We saw what we wanted to see. We took the shot. It didn't work out. It's just the way these days are, guys. These days are really, really tough. It just is what it is. This idea is still valid to me. I would try it again. I still like that volume came in here. Again, I said I was okay with it piercing this area a little bit, but it needs to be like a really clean entry now. I'd really like to see it even take this high out at this point. If I do try it again, it'll be my last trade of the day. Kind of a tough, well, not kind of, like a very tough couple days. Very tough couple days. Here we go. There's the buyers. That's what we want to see. Let's see if it comes back a little bit. If I can get in on a limit, might just take off. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait and just see if it gives me a higher low. Because I think there's room to run up here. If it can give me a higher low, I would be more comfortable getting long, I think. Patience, patience, patience. Okay, good. I like that. Let's see if the buyers can still hold. I'm not in anything at the moment, but I'm considering a re-entry long here. Selling is a little bit aggressive here. We have these little gap between these candles. Here we go. Buying volume picking up again. Okay. I'm trying it one more time. Either it works or it doesn't. I'll try to go for about 2R on this. I want to see the buyers get some good pump here. Sellers are still just slamming it down. Looks like it's going to work against me again. Again, I like the idea. It's just a tricky, tricky day. These are normally like my bread and butter kind of trades. See, buyers are still here. They're trying. Still in this trade. Buyers are still here. Let's see what they can do. Sellers keep rejecting that area. If we can get and hold above this 59.25 area, I think we're good to go. But that's the area that the sellers keep slamming us down at. You can see the buyers trying to hold it. Come on, another pump. Another pump. There we go. If we get decisively above this and start to hold, I'll probably move my risk up a little bit, but I don't want to be too aggressive about that, especially MNQ. There's a lot of noise in here. 30-second chart, there's lots of noise, so we want to give our trades enough breathing room to work. You'll end up getting taken out of a lot of good trades if you get too aggressive about moving stops. Again, I feel good about the idea. Obviously, other people were also thinking about buying here. So win or lose, I feel okay about my entry. We always want to see that other buyers come in after us. Come on, keep pumping. There we go. I'm going to tighten up my risk a little bit, move my stop to like 49.75. Now we're at VWAP. I want to see us go through it. Obviously, my target's above there. It's a little bit of an aggressive target considering the overall sort of bearish nature of things at the moment. If I see anything that makes me feel like I need to get out, I will. I've got my fingers on the hotkeys. I want to see some more of a nice pump here. We're above VWAP, so that's good. I'm ready to get more aggressive with my stop as we get closer and closer to my target. Here we go. There we go, got my target. Okay, so now we're going to get into the breakdown of this trade. I always like to start with the big picture. In this case, I'm using a 2-hour chart because I felt like it gave me the cleanest image of the sort of rhythm of the market at this point in time. Essentially what we have here is we had this huge rally over the past few days, last week essentially, that led to new all-time highs. And yesterday, which was Monday, and today, we've had a very choppy consolidation, but very much within this big impulse. So the big picture bias is bullish, although on the time frames that I trade, there is still plenty of opportunity to take bearish trades. We just want to be aware of where we are in all of this. The next time frame that I want to look at is this 30-minute time frame. You can see how choppy the price action has been since we went up to these all-time highs. Yesterday's session was extremely difficult as volatility was compressing throughout the day, and then we stayed basically within that range throughout the overnight, making a quick test down to new lows that was pretty swiftly rejected during London's session in the overnight last night. Now, there's two main things I want to draw your attention to here. The first one is this magenta area that I have highlighted across here. You can see that the opening 30-minute candle yesterday wicked down right into that area. And then throughout the afternoon yesterday, that area held and then held as resistance throughout the overnight. You can't really see it on this chart, but when we get down to the lower time frames, you'll see that throughout the session so far at the time of this trade, which was about 11 a.m. Eastern time, this area was also a relevant resistance area throughout the initial part of the New York Open. But the main thing that I want to draw your attention to are the wicks on these last three candles. Now, this very last candle is not fully formed at the time of this screenshot. But every time the market came back down here to these lows, the rejections were swift and came with volume. And that's really important to note because that shows that there are signs of accumulation down there. And again, you're going to see that more clearly when we go down to our lower time frames. Okay, this is the 2-minute chart as it appeared right before the trade entry. So you can see at the open this big movement down that was very, very quickly rejected with, pretty strong volume that occurred, of course, what we would expect at the open. But the volume here at the rejection was nearly as much as it was on the very opening print, which is extremely telling, plus the speed of that rejection. And you can see all these large trade bubbles here on the NinjaTrader large trade detector. You can just see how much aggression that there was on both sides as price was battling it out. From there, we kind of went into this choppy area, and it's important to note that all of this price action that we're seeing is inside of these first 3 2-minute candles. Essentially, almost the entire morning session price action was inside of the first 5-minute impulse, and that's really telling. Really, what that does for us is it puts a couple ideas in our head. One is that this is basically a range, right? Which is an inside range. All the price action in here is inside of this impulse. We can expect choppiness, especially towards the middle areas of the range. We want to be very careful. The other thing that we can see here is that volatility seems to be compressing. You have this sort of series of lower highs here, but we're also starting to make a series of higher lows. So even though we're in a range, we're not really expecting price to make it all the way down to the extremes. I mean, this was a strong rejection, and we're going to look inside of this rejection here, and you'll see what happened internally there. But we're sort of anticipating that volatility might continue to compress here before a bigger breakout, and that's really important to keep in mind. But the big things here are strong rejection at the lows on volume, indicating an imbalance of buying as price attempted to pierce through this overnight low, which is this dotted line right here. And then we are sort of looking at range trading rules based on the fact that we are inside of this impulse, not to mention VWAP is pretty flat. Cumulative delta was negative, but not extremely negative by any stretch. And we can see again volatility compressing. All of those things are things that we want to keep in mind. You can see a little bit here on this low how volume increased as we tested that area, and we're going to take a closer look at that now. Okay, so this is my entry time frame. You can see my playback window here, and one thing I want to state is that I always do my trade reviews. I take these screenshots from my journal always in playback mode because I like to see the hard right edge of the screen. I like to see the price action as it was at the time of the trade when I put it into my journal, especially when I'm looking at those higher time frame candles that were not yet fully formed, and you just don't get that same picture if you're just taking snapshots of the historical chart. But there are a few things to point out here. So way back over here was that initial flush down at the open, and notice this quick little bounce that we got here before we flushed a little bit lower and then rallied back up. Again, you can see all the volume that came in. If we draw a line across there, you can see as we came down here on this second test, again, look at the volume that came in as we were pulling down into this area, and then strong volume as we rejected back up. Now, I actually took this short right here. So you can't see it on this chart, but if you draw a volume profile across this whole consolidation, there is a high volume node lining up almost to the tick with VWAP right here. And as price came up into this area and started to consolidate, this candle here with this upper wick is this, again, sort of big volume down here, if you can see where my cursor is. Whenever I see big volume like that with a wick on it, to me that's a big sign of rejection. And then we made one more attempt up with another upper wick. As we broke down below this consolidation, I took a short, and I was already watching this area where we had this lower wick here and this upper wick here, and I put my target right above that. Now, I did actually close this trade early. I saw some large volume coming in around here, and I decided to exit the trade. I didn't want to risk it coming back at me because I was a little bit wary of shorts already because of the way I saw this volume come in here rejecting the lows. This to me is indicative of accumulation, which you can see I made a note here on the screenshot for myself. In fact, I had a little bit of FOMO that I didn't think to grab the long here as we made this little break of structure here after this little small higher low. This is a 30-second chart, by the way. That being said, price did come down. It did make it to my target. I was a little distracted talking on the Discord group, and I sort of wish I would have thought to maybe catch this long here. This was another nice setup for a long that went up and broke new highs. But either way, this action, everything that happened here, and the way this rejected again here and went up to higher highs is what planted the seed in my head that if we come back down to this area, I want to look for longs. Now, the mistake I made, and what I made a note in my trading journal about this with these screenshots, is that given how as this was coming down, this made one attempt back up, two attempts back up, and then this was kind of like the third. I really probably should have waited for a break of structure into higher low before taking an entry. I took an entry on this first candle that hit into the zone I was looking for. And then as we rejected back up, this was on pretty good volume here. And at the time, this looked to be engulfing, and it looked like it was going to just go. So I jumped in right around here. You saw that on the screen recording, and I did get stopped out. But that didn't really deter me because I was already sort of looking at the fact that this could pierce lower. The reason I was looking at that is we had this small consolidation here before this big push up. This big push up is this first, again, sort of larger area of volume up here. And when you have these low volume spots right before a big volume push, a lot of times those low volume areas are those like consolidation areas. Some people call them order blocks that often will hold. So I was already thinking that we might come down into where we had these basing candles of low volume before that big volume and volatility expansion that pushed on up. So even though this pushed a little bit below my zone, I was already prepared for that. Because I already got stopped once, I didn't jump in right away here on this rejection. I really wanted to play it safer. I wanted to wait for a break of structure, which we got. I was a little tempted to jump in, but I decided to wait and see if we could print a nice higher low, and told myself that I would get in on the higher low, and that's exactly what happened. So this is where I got in right here. Now, as you saw in the recording, this kind of came up here, consolidated a little bit more, came back down, nearly stopped me out before the buyers came back in, pumped it right up. This screenshot, I don't have the risk reward thing set to where my target actually was, so I put this line right here. But as you saw, this went through my target very nicely for pretty much exactly a 2-to-1 reward to risk. So that's the trade, guys. That's the logic behind it. I hope you found this helpful. I put these kinds of trade breakdowns with detailed descriptions in my Discord group for my members on a regular basis. I also took this trade live with my Discord group. If you guys are interested in joining, there is a link in the description that you can check out. We have a lot of fun in there. It's a great group of very committed people. We do live trading and then other educational sessions as well, and I'd love to see you guys there. At the very least, if you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you feel so compelled, leave a comment and I'd be happy to reply. I'll see you guys in the next video.